The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. It wasn't the kind of rain that washed things clean, it was the kind that lingered, heavy and tired, just like her heart. Maya sat by the window of the small café, tracing invisible lines on the fogged glass, watching the world blur in shades of gray. The cup of coffee before her had gone cold, untouched for nearly an hour. People came and went. Couples laughing, friends chatting, a mother trying to calm her crying child, and through it all, Maya sat still, lost somewhere between memory and survival. She didn't come here for the coffee. She came here because the cafe was quiet, the staff didn't ask questions, and the corner by the window felt safe. For someone trying to rebuild a life from ashes, safety meant everything. The bell above the door chimed. She didn't look up at first. But something about the footsteps, firm, unhurried, confident, made her glance toward the door. A tall man in a dark coat walked in, shaking the rain from his hair. His eyes scanned the room, searching for an empty seat. There weren't many left. His gaze stopped at her table. "Mind if I sit?" he asked politely. She hesitated. For months, she had avoided strangers. But there was something in his tone. Not pushy, not flirtatious, just human. "Sure," she said softly. He smiled faintly and took the seat across from her. The silence stretched, comfortable yet fragile. The waiter came, took his order, and left. After a few minutes, he spoke again. "You don't seem like someone who enjoys rainy days." She almost laughed, the first laugh she'd allowed herself in weeks. "You noticed," he smiled. "It's in your eyes. People who love the rain usually look out the window with wonder. You look like you're trying to forget something." Her smile faded. He was right. She was trying to forget, or at least, to live with what couldn't be forgotten. "I'm sorry," he added quickly. That was too forward. "It's okay," she said, staring into her coffee. "Sometimes strangers see more than people who've known us for years." He nodded. "That's true." Silence again. Only the soft music and rain tapping against the glass filled the space between them. After a while, he said, "I'm Ethan." "Maya." He reached out a hand, and she shook it. His hand was warm, steady, a strange contrast to her cold fingers. They talked. About nothing, really. Books, music, the way the city lights reflected in puddles after the rain. For the first time in months, Maya didn't feel the weight of her loneliness pressing down. Ethan didn't ask personal questions. He didn't look at her like she was broken. He just talked. When the sky finally cleared, he stood up, buttoning his coat. "It was nice meeting you, Maya. Maybe I'll see you here again." She hesitated. Part of her wanted to say no, to keep her walls high, to stay safe. But something in his eyes, a quiet sincerity, made her nod. "Maybe." He smiled and walked out. Maya stayed there long after he left, staring at the empty chair across from her. It had been months since she'd spoken to someone without feeling judged or pitied. Maybe, she thought, she could come back tomorrow. Just to sit, just to feel human again. The next day, she did. And so did he. It became their quiet routine. Two strangers meeting at the same table, sharing moments that weren't quite friendship, but something close. They never exchanged numbers. They never asked about the past. It was unspoken, an agreement between two people trying to heal in silence. But one evening, as the cafe lights dimmed and the rain began again, Ethan finally asked the question she'd been dreading. "You were married," he said gently, after noticing the faint tan line on her ring finger, one that refused to fade no matter how much time had passed. For a moment, Maya couldn't breathe. Her chest tightened, her throat burned. She looked away, her hands trembling slightly. "Once," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Now I'm just someone trying to survive." The words hung in the air between them, fragile and heavy. Ethan didn't press further. He didn't offer pity or fake comfort. He just nodded, eyes soft with understanding. Maya wanted to tell him everything. About the promises broken, the nights spent alone, the way she had lost herself trying to keep a marriage alive that had already died. But the words wouldn't come. Not yet. When she finally looked up, Ethan was still watching her, not with curiosity, but with quiet respect. "Survival," he said softly, "isn't just about breathing, Maya. It's about finding something worth breathing for." For the first time in years, She felt tears sting her eyes, not from pain, but from the faint flicker of hope his words sparked inside her. Outside, the rain kept falling. But inside that little cafe, something inside her began to thaw. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't done surviving yet. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. Ethan's words kept echoing in her mind. Survival isn't just about breathing. She lay on her small couch, staring at the ceiling, surrounded by silence and the hum of city lights outside her window. It had been a long time since anyone's words had reached her heart. Most people talked at her, not to her. But Ethan, he had a way of speaking that felt like he was stitching something broken, without even knowing it. Still, the memories she tried to bury came flooding back. 2 years ago, Maya was married to Daniel, a man she once thought was her forever. He was charming, ambitious, the kind of person who could make anyone feel special just by looking at them. She met him in college. He was studying architecture, she was studying literature. He used to write her notes, fold them into paper cranes, and leave them in her books. Back then, love felt simple, pure, eternal. But reality doesn't stay soft for long. After marriage, Daniel changed. The late nights at work became excuses. The gentle voice turned sharp. He grew distant, first emotionally, then completely. He stopped listening, stopped caring, and started blaming. Maya tried to hold the pieces together, cooking his favorite meals, writing him small letters like she used to, but he barely noticed. Eventually, she discovered what she had been trying not to see. Messages on his phone, a woman from his office, someone who gave him the attention she no longer could. The night she confronted him, rain had been falling just like it was tonight. He didn't deny it, he didn't even apologize. He just said, "You've changed, Maya. You're not the same person I married." And maybe he was right, pain changes people. The divorce came quickly, no drama, no fight. Just signatures, silence, and the sound of her heart cracking in a lawyer's office. After that, she moved to a smaller apartment, took a job as a librarian, and tried to disappear from her old life. She stopped talking to friends, stopped trusting anyone. The world became smaller. A coffee shop, a library, an empty home. Until Ethan walked in. The next morning, Maya returned to the cafe, as if drawn by an invisible string. She told herself it was just habit, but deep down she knew, she was hoping to see him again. And he was there, sitting at their table, already sipping coffee, as if he had been waiting for her. "Good morning," he said with that calm, almost comforting smile. She sat down, shyly mirroring his smile. "You're early," he chuckled. "Couldn't sleep. The rain kept me awake." They talked again. This time longer, softer. Ethan told her about his job as a photojournalist, how he traveled a lot, capturing moments that told stories without words. He said he loved faces. Not perfect ones, but the ones with scars and lines because they tell the truth better than smiles. Maya listened quietly. The way he spoke about people, about life, reminded her of everything she had forgotten to feel. At one point, he asked, "And you? What do you do?" "I work at the city library," she said. "It's quiet. Peaceful or lonely?" She looked up. "Both, I guess." He nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe that's okay. Maybe peace always costs a little loneliness." Something about that line made her chest ache. They met again the next day. And the next. Their friendship grew in the unspoken. Smiles over coffee, stories shared in fragments. Ethan never asked about Daniel again, and Maya didn't bring him up. But one evening, while watching the rain through the window, Ethan said softly, "You know, sometimes people come into our lives not to fix us, but to remind us that we're still alive." Maya's breath caught. "And sometimes," she whispered, "that reminder hurts." He looked at her then. Really looked. "Then maybe it's the kind of hurt that heals." As weeks passed, Maya began to feel something unfamiliar, warmth. She started reading again, writing again. The world didn't look so gray anymore. Ethan became her quiet companion in healing. He never tried to take away her pain. He simply sat beside it, and somehow that was enough. But with hope came fear. One evening, after he walked her home, she stood at her door, heart pounding. "Ethan, I don't know if I can do this." He frowned slightly. Do what? Let someone in again. His voice was gentle. Then don't. Not yet. Just let yourself breathe. She smiled faintly. You make it sound easy. It's not. But it's worth it. That night, as Maya lay in bed, she found herself wondering, who was Ethan, really? What was he running from? Because behind his calm eyes, she sometimes saw the same sadness she carried, like two mirrors reflecting the same storm. And deep down, she knew, he wasn't just someone passing through her story. He was someone whose scars might be darker than her own. The next day, she would find out just how much. Because when she arrived at the cafe, Ethan wasn't there. Hours passed. She waited. The barista said he hadn't come in. No calls, no messages, no goodbye. For the first time in months, Maya felt that old ache return, the familiar emptiness of being left behind. She told herself it didn't matter. He was just a stranger. Just a friend. But as the rain began to fall again, she realized something painful. She had started to care. The cafe felt emptier than usual. The soft hum of conversation, the clinking of cups, the smell of roasted beans, everything was the same, yet it all felt wrong without him sitting across the table. Maya stirred her coffee absent-mindedly, eyes fixed on the door. Every time it opened, she looked up, only to feel that small stab of disappointment again. 3 days. It had been 3 days since Ethan vanished. No goodbye, no message, no note. Just gone. She told herself it didn't matter. That he was just a stranger who happened to cross her path for a few weeks. But her heart refused to listen. It had grown used to his voice, his quiet presence, the safety of his words. For the first time since Daniel, someone had made her feel seen. And now he was gone too. On the 4th day, Maya didn't go to the cafe. She stayed home instead, sitting by her window, watching the rain crawl down the glass. It was almost poetic, how the weather always seemed to echo her emotions. She opened the drawer beside her couch and took out a small notebook. It was old, its pages yellowed, its cover worn from years of use. She hadn't written in it since her marriage ended. But tonight, she needed to. She flipped to a blank page and began to write. Greater than, people leave. Sometimes without warning, sometimes without reason. And maybe it's not their fault. Maybe life just pulls them in different directions. But what do you do with the silence they leave behind? Her handwriting wavered. She blinked back tears and closed the notebook. She thought about Ethan's eyes, kind, but haunted. The way he sometimes stared at nothing, as if lost in memories he didn't want to share. Maybe he was running from something, just like she was. A week later, Maya walked into the library where she worked, trying to distract herself with routine. She was sorting books when a familiar voice came from behind her. Still reading sad stories, she froze. That voice. Turning around, she saw him, Ethan, standing there, hair slightly longer, eyes tired but smiling. For a second, she couldn't move. Then, in a whisper, you disappeared. I know, he said quietly. I'm sorry. Her emotions battled between relief and anger. You could have said something, Ethan. You just left. He sighed, looking away. I didn't mean to. I had to go. Had to, she repeated, crossing her arms. You make it sound like you didn't have a choice. He hesitated. I didn't. Something in his tone stopped her from asking more. She saw pain there, deep and unspoken. Are you okay? She asked softly. He nodded, though his eyes said otherwise. Can we talk? Maybe at the cafe. She wanted to say no, to protect herself from more hurt, but the concern in his voice made her heart soften. Okay, she said. They walked in silence through the drizzle until they reached the cafe. Their table was empty, waiting for them. After the waiter brought their drinks, Ethan took a deep breath. Maya, there's something I haven't told you. She nodded, heart pounding. He stared into his cup, as if searching for courage. You told me once that you were married. I never said anything about my past, because I didn't know how. Maya leaned forward. You don't have to tell me if you're not ready. I want to, he said firmly. You deserve the truth. He paused for a long moment, then said quietly, I was married too. The words hung between them, heavy and unexpected. Maya's eyes widened. You, What happened? Ethan's voice trembled slightly. Her name was Claire. She was a journalist too. We worked together on assignments. War zones, natural disasters, refugee camps. We were both chasing stories, trying to make the world notice things it wanted to ignore. He smiled sadly. We were good together. But life out there, it changes you. We saw too much, lost too much. She started struggling with the nightmares, the memories. And I thought I could fix her. I thought love was enough. He looked down. It wasn't. Maya felt her throat tighten. What happened to her? She didn't make it back from our last assignment, he said quietly. It was an explosion near the border. I was there. I couldn't. He stopped, voice breaking. Maya reached across the table and took his hand. Ethan. He closed his eyes, a tear slipping down his cheek. I've spent 2 years running from that day. From the guilt, the noise, the silence. When I met you, I didn't want to feel anything again. But you made me remember what it's like to breathe. Her heart ached for him, for the pain he carried so quietly. I know what it's like, she whispered. To lose someone and still wake up every day pretending you haven't. He looked up, eyes meeting hers. Then maybe we don't have to pretend anymore. That night, they walked home. Together, neither speaking. Words weren't needed. The rain fell softly, wrapping them in a strange kind of peace. Two broken people walking side by side, not healed, but no longer alone. When they reached her building, Ethan stopped. Maya, I can't promise I'll stay forever. My work, it takes me places. But I don't want to disappear again without saying goodbye. She smiled faintly, though her heart ached. Just don't disappear tonight. He smiled, the kind that reached his eyes for the first time. I won't. Later, as she lay in bed, Maya thought about how life worked in circles. Two souls, both scarred by love and loss, somehow finding each other in a rainy city. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel broken. She felt alive, but deep down, a small part of her feared what morning might bring. Because survival had taught her one truth: happiness never came without risk. The next morning, sunlight broke through the clouds for the first time in weeks. The city felt alive again, streets drying, laughter returning, and the air heavy with that rare smell of freshness after days of rain. Maya stood at her window, holding her coffee, watching the light filter through her curtains. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of the morning. Ethan had kept his word. He didn't disappear. They met again at the café that afternoon. This time, there was no hesitation, no awkward silence. They greeted each other like two people who had already crossed the hardest part, the silence of their pasts. You look different, Ethan said, smiling softly as she sat down. Maya laughed. You mean I finally slept? That too, he said. But it's more than that. You look lighter. She tilted her head, pretending to think. Maybe because the rain finally stopped. Ethan leaned back. Or maybe because you finally stopped running. Maya's smile faded, her gaze falling to her cup. You make it sound like I was running from something. He looked at her gently. Weren't you? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. He already knew. They talked for hours that day. About dreams, fears, the weight of survival. Maya told him about her writing, how she once dreamed of publishing a book before life got too heavy. Ethan encouraged her to start again, to write not for the world but for herself. I can't write happy endings, she said softly. Then don't, he replied. Write real ones. The kind where people fall apart but still keep walking. Something about his words stayed with her. Days turned into weeks, and their friendship deepened into something neither dared to name. Ethan would sometimes show up with photographs, faces of strangers, ruins of cities, children smiling in dusty streets. He said stories lived inside those images. Maya listened, sometimes crying quietly, sometimes smiling like she hadn't in years. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset from the cafe window, Ethan said quietly, I got another assignment. Maya froze. Where? South Africa. It's a big project. I'll be gone for a few months. She forced a smile. That's amazing. He studied her face. You don't sound happy. She looked away. You said you wouldn't disappear again. I'm not disappearing, Maya, he said softly. But I can't stop living either. This is what I do. It's who I am. I know, she whispered, tears threatening. I'm just scared. Ethan reached for her hand. So am I. But sometimes, surviving means taking the risk of losing again. She nodded, though her heart trembled. Just promise me something. Anything. Promise you'll come back. He smiled faintly. I'll always find my way back to the rain. The morning he left, Maya didn't go to the airport. She couldn't. Goodbyes had always been too painful for her. Instead, she went to the café, their table waiting like always. She ordered 2 coffees, one for herself, one for him, and sat there watching the rain begin again. She opened her notebook, the same one she had written in weeks ago, and started to write. Greater than, sometimes people come into your life not to stay, but to remind you that your heart still beats. That even after everything, you're still capable of feeling, of caring, of loving. Survival isn't the end, it's the beginning. Months passed. Ethan's letters came from different corners of the world, photographs, postcards, stories scribbled on napkins. He didn't say, I love you, not once. But he didn't have to. Every word carried it silently. Maya began to write again. Short stories, essays, reflections. Her words found meaning in the spaces between pain and peace. She even published a few pieces online, and readers started responding, saying her words felt real. One day, a publisher emailed her, asking if she'd consider writing a book. Maya stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. Greater than, it's a story about 2 broken people who met in the rain and taught each other how to live again. 6 months later, on a quiet evening, she sat by the same cafe window, her manuscript resting beside her. The rain had just started, soft and steady. She smiled to herself. Then the bell above the door chimed. She looked up, and there he was. Ethan, tired, sunburned, a little thinner, but alive. Their eyes met, and in that single look, every unspoken word, every fear, every hope came rushing back. He walked toward her slowly, smiling. Still sitting in your favorite corner. She laughed through her tears. Still chasing storms. He set his camera bag down and pulled out something, a small, folded photograph. He slid it across the table. It was a picture of her, sitting by the window, lost in thought. You took this? She asked, surprised. The first day I met you, he said. I never told you, but you looked like someone who was learning to survive. I didn't want to forget that face. Maya's voice trembled. And now, he reached across the table, taking her hand. Now you don't look like someone surviving. You look like someone living. She smiled, tears spilling down her cheeks. And you, he leaned closer. I'm done running. Outside, the rain fell harder, but this time, neither of them minded. For the first time in years, Maya didn't see rain as a reminder of pain. It was rebirth, renewal. She looked at him and whispered, welcome back. He smiled softly. I told you I'd find my way. And as the rain danced against the glass, 2 broken souls finally let go of the past. Not to forget it, but to forgive it. Greater than, you were married. He had asked once. Once, she'd said, now I'm just someone trying to survive. But now, as she looked at him, she knew the truth. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was alive.